Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our latest webinar on independent market monitors. And today we have the market monitors from Colombia and from Chile who will be presenting today. And we will be making these recordings available on our website together with a copy of the slides. And we'll be sending them out after the presentation to everybody who signed up for it. I'm going to give the word to Camilo Tautiva of the Market Monitoring Unit for Colombia now to give his presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. Good morning and good morning, everyone. My name is Camilo Tautiva. I'm the coordinator of the Monitoring Unit for Energy and Gas Markets in Colombia. So I'm going to present today. I'm going to present a brief description of the unit, the work that we have been doing, and also a description of the Superintendencia de Servicios Públicos, which is the entity that we belong at, and what work does the Superintendencia, and also a brief description of the Colombia energy market and how it's working and how we are monitoring these markets. Basically, the Superintendencia of the Servicios Públicos promote and protect the rights and obligation of users and utilities, and the provision of essential services in a sustainable way according to the regulation and the quality standards. One of the objectives that Superintendencia try to achieve is, or the activities that the Superintendencia does is monitor regulation, compliance of utilities, evaluate the technical, operational, administrative, and financial management of utilities according to the regulation, to require solution to failures in the provision of public services, and to verify the rates charged to the end users, and to penalize utilities when they behave inappropriately. Basically, some of the services that the Superintendencia surveil are water, energy, natural gas, LPG, among others. And the monitoring unit is part of the energy and gas superintendents, delegated superintendents. And okay, so related to the wholesale markets in Colombia, the first one that I'm going to describe is the electricity wholesale market. This market is, or some markets are part of this wholesale market. The first one is the spot market price, or the short-term market. The bilateral contracts market, which are like a mid-term market. So these are contracts for 1 or 2 or mostly 3 years. The other is the capacity market that we call reliability charge market in Colombia. And it's basically to promote the long-term expansion and how the projects are financed in the long term. And the other one is the ancillary service market that runs simultaneously with the spot market, and that provide all the operational services. This is a more developed market. It has been working during the past 25 years. It's a recognized market around the continent and around the world, and highly developed, but we are also with imperfection that I will mention later. On the other side, we have the natural gas market, which is quite simple compared to the electricity market. We have basically a bilateral market for supply and transportation that we call primary market, based on bilateral contracts for the long term and some auctions on the short term. And also we have a secondary market for both supply and transportation. So just to adjust the positions and to run to adjust to the operation of the system. It's quite simple compared to the electricity market. Here are some figures about these markets. On the electricity market, these figures are updated to the last year. Almost 17.5 gigawatts of installed capacity in the electricity market. 68% of that is hydro power plants, and the other 30 are thermal power plants, and 2% of non-conventional renewables.
Camilo, I have a bunch of questions now.
Okay.
First, if you could talk a little bit about which markets renewable energy participates in. I know they participate in contracts. They participate in the spot market.
They participate in all markets.
They do.
In the last auction on the reliability charge, the capacity market, there were like four non-conventional renewable projects, two or three wind and 2 solar, if I remember correctly. They are participating in this. This is a mechanism based on energy and firm energy. So they are able to participate, but they are not able to provide too much firm energy. So the capacity was like 1.5 gigawatts, but the firm energy was like 5% of the total of the auction. So they can participate in this market. Also, they are signing bilateral contracts with the retail companies to finance the projects, for the financial closure of the project. They need to participate on the spot market as it's a pool, and they are obligated to participate on this. But so far, they are what we call like the run-of-the-river power plants. They are participating like some run-of-the-river power plants. So if they have deviations from the estimated energy produced, they don't have. They are not penalized, and they have some specific treatment on the spot market. And also on the ancillary services, this market is not quite developed in Colombia, so I'm not talking too much about this, but they are participating in all. And
prices, they're not subsidized in any way, the prices, renewable energy prices?
No, they have some tax incentives, but not subsidizes directly, not like a feed-in tariff or something like that. We have more like a renewable portfolio. So we have a mandate that the retail companies need to have 10 or at least 10% of its energy from non-conventional renewable. So in this capacity market, and mainly on bilateral contracts, they are participating on that, and they are fulfilling this mandate.
Okay, thank you. No, that's
Also,
good.
just to mention and focus a little bit on non-conventional renewables, we had an auction just for non-conventional renewables in Colombia last October for an auction where the generators and the retail participate at two side auction, and we developed like 1.5 gigawatts signed contracts for 1.5 gigawatts on the bilateral market.
Yeah, that's an important point. Bilateral contracts, how long do they last?
Mainly 1 or 2 years, some of them 3 to 5, but this market, these bilateral contract markets, it's like a mid-term market. The short-term, mid-term, and the capacity market is just one to as we can qualify as long-term.
Okay. Thank you. I have one more question, but I think we'll get to that one further on. Just keep in mind when we get to the part where you're talking about the investigations, there's a question about whether or not you've sent them to the competition authority and what kind of investigations have been opened, but you'll be getting to that further on. So.
Okay. So in the electricity market, well, this is the annual demand, the average spot price for 2019. And some figures about the concentration on this market, both supply and retail, which is quite well. At the supply market is not so high. Well, but we will see some specific. This is based on the capacity, the installed capacity of several agents. The main participation of the highest participation are this year. And also on the retail side, but we will see some specific features that are not quite good related to these indicators, like Herfindahl-Hirschman. And on the natural gas side, we had here the production. This is not potential. This was actual real production in 2019. The average demand. And the average contract price in the natural gas, as I mentioned, we just have mainly bilateral contracts, and this is the price related to that. Also, on the supply market, we have a high concentration, as we have one main producer, which is a public company. It's called Ecopetrol. That does all the most of the exploration for hydrocarbons in Colombia. So that's why we have a high concentration in this market. And also on the retail side, we have the same feature. Okay, right now focusing on the market monitor in Colombia. We basically this is the evolution of the market monitor in the country. We started with in 2006 with a specific committee, confirmed by 3 external experts, and we worked with that committee for 10 years. They produced several reports, but this committee was external. We didn't have the capacity within the Superintendencia to run the market monitoring. So in many times they express their own perspective on the market monitoring, and maybe not as institutional as it could be. And so that's why we started a new approach. And in 2018, we get the advice from external entities like the World Bank and private consultants for the creation of a monitoring unit. And in October on 2018, we started with the development of the monitoring unit. During the first semester of the last year, we did the identification of the monitoring priorities and the technical support needs, and we started working formally with a developed team, like in the mid past year. In October, we had an event to launch the monitoring unit. Some of you maybe are aware of that event.
Some of us were at that event.
Yeah, with the support of Usea and Joanna, we had a lot of work to prepare and develop that event. And some of the webinars or the people that have been doing this webinar participated in the event too. And so far we have published 2 monitoring reports that are in our webpage that I will show you in a moment. And we want to consolidate this work. We are developing a battery of indicators and formalizing and enhancing the report and the analysis from the monitoring unit so far. So what is UMEC? That's the acronyms for the monitoring unit for energy and gas markets in Colombia. Is a group created within the delegate superintendencies for energy and gas, responsible for the follow-up and monitoring of the wholesale energy and natural gas markets in order to prevent and mitigate the undue exercise of market power and contribute to the efficient operation of this market and its continuous improvement. And we pursue several objectives: develop methodologies and indicators for the follow-up and monitoring of the wholesale markets, establish prospective monitoring processes based on performance indicator of the wholesale markets, to publish periodic information on the performance of the markets, and support other areas of the Superintendencia in the inspection, surveillance, and control process related to these markets. The unit is, the structure of the unit is like this: a coordinator, three basic teams, one on electricity, one on natural gas, one on information and technology, and one legal support. This is the names of the team. We are 10 people. 3 of us has a PhD degree, 5 master degree, and the rest professional degree, bachelor degree. So I think it's a high level professional team. We have several products within the unit. We run every week a committee with our bosses, and in which we follow up the main variables of the markets. We check on the relevant indicators. We run some market analysis if we identify a specific situations of concern. We track operational events, and we mention some regulatory news. And basically, within this committee, we decide and give the guideline for the work of the unit. We also produce an infographic with the follow-up of the main variables of the market and indicators tracking and regulatory news. This infographic is just intern for the use of Superintendencia and all the professionals of different areas at the Superintendencia, so they can be aware about the behavior of the markets. We also run or develop reports in several forms, like documents and specific indicators. The reports we produce that quarterly. Those are public documents. A couple are published on our webpage, where we do or run some analysis of the follow-up and monitoring of the markets, and we present the indicators developed, and also we follow up the relevant situations related to the markets. And the software development, which is very important. We run, for example, or we develop some ETLs to get all the information or the data related to the markets, the database creation and development, and also, and more important, the development of models for advanced analytic on the markets, and the web portal to publish the documents and the indicators. This is the link to our web portal, and these are just some screenshots of some of the indicators. On the upper side, we have a curve of an aggregated curve of contracts on the gas and the natural gas sector, and on the bottom we have an inventory of LNG plant in the Caribbean coast that I will mention in a moment. This is an schematic of a flow chart of the methodology that we run to follow up and do the market monitoring. Basically, we get all the variables of the market. Every time we develop the database, we store them on the database, and we go parallel for two paths. One path, we run simulation models, we run a statistics analysis and sensibility analysis to develop reference value for several metrics. At the same time, we run a screening test to this data of the markets to identify anomalies. And once we identify one anomaly, we assess the condition of the system, and we computate the metrics and compare that to the reference value to decide if that it's a workably competitive market or not. And if it's not, we try to quantify the impact, and based on that, we publish some specific documents or indicators or report with that information. And from this side, once we calculate or compute the reference value, we also run the follow-up of all the variable markets to publish that and to report that periodically. We run that all the time, and we repeat that. Basically, a simple methodology to run the market monitoring. I'm going to show you, just to finish, I'm going to show you an example of how we did this follow-up and some situations we have identified. And basically, this is on your left, this is the natural gas transportation system. And I'm going to focus on the Caribbean coast of Colombia and the transportation system there, which is the diagram here on the right. We had a leak on the pipelines in this area close to Cartagena in Colombia, which is an industrial area. We have our biggest refinery there. We also have here some thermal power plants, some industry close to this area. And we also have here the LNG plant in the port of Cartagena. So we had a leak here, and this leak in this area of Mamonal affected the provision of natural gas to the rest of the demand in the area. So at the end, some specific thermal power plants were reduced their supply of natural gas because of that leak. The event was during 3 days. After that, well, we run an analysis after that, during and after that, and we identified, for example, this is the production of natural gas in the coast, and the green chart is the production of the LNG plant. and it was affected by this leak on this way. And here we have the inventory on green, and this chart on the left, we have the inventory of LNG on green, on light green, and the injection to the of the LNG plant to the natural gas transportation system, and it was affected in this way, as I am pointing here. So during that week, during those days, here we see the Herford-Sherman index for the generation market. And here we identify several markets.
Could you briefly, sorry, Camilo, sorry. Could you just briefly go over what the Herfindahl index, how that works, what it measures?
Yeah, it measures the concentration in a market, and it's based on the share of each participant on the market. And based on that share, it calculates if the market it's concentrated or not. And it has several range. One range here in green in this slide on the left shows if the market is not concentrated or is okay. It's below 1,000. And between 1,000 and 2,000, the market is like with moderate concentration. The capacity market, the installed capacity index is on this range, and if the index is over 2,000 and up to 10,000. 10,000 is the limit when you have just one participant in the market. It indicates that the market is highly concentrated. So at the end here, what you see in this chart in blue over the red range is that the participation of the agents in the pricing on the spot market. So basically, here on the left, you see that during these days of the event, were basically three agents on the market fixing the price on the spot market, on the electricity spot market. So here we see, for example, here February 16, we see two agents fixing the price during all hours of that day. One agent fixed the price like 60% of those hours, and the other fixed the other 40%. So this is a high concentrated market. So basically we have a moderate index of concentration in the installed capacity, but we have a highly concentrated market on the price fixing, on the pricing in the spot market. So that's one signal of this market. And we also calculated the pivotal bidders during the event. And for example, for 2 days, 2 different dates, we calculate the pivotal bidders through the residual offerent index, which indicates if the capacity of or the bids of one agent in the market could be pivotal. So it will be necessary to fulfill the demand. So these agents or this feature shows that that agent have the possibility to run power market. And previously, or the day before the event, we had this non-agent was a pivotal or become a pivotal bidder, but during the event, there were some agents that were pivotal. So that's another signal to consider on this analysis.
So those are the two main performance indicators that you look at, the HHI and the IOR?
So far, yes. So far, yes. We have another. We have several, but these are the main that we are seeing right now.
Mhm.
And at the end, just to finish, we took one of the power plants of these agents that were fixing the price, and we check on the bids of this power plant, and the price, and the price is here in orange, is the dotted line. That's the price during this period, and the event were here. The event were here. So the event, before the event, this was the bid of this agent, and during the event was this almost 20% high, and this agent fixed the price during those days like 40% or more than 50% of the time, of the hours of those days. So, and we also check on the availability of the power plants, and we saw a high changes on the availability of those power plants during those days of the event that were on this area of the chart. So those are signals that we are analyzing in order to check if the agents are behaving well or not, and if there are some indicators of these type of behaviors. So basically, that's all that I have for today. So if I'm over time right now, but thank you for the invitation. Don't hesitate. These are my contact details. So if you have some questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Camilo. We have a couple of questions that I didn't pose during the presentation. There's one is, have there been any penalties issued for market power violations? And if so, were those penalties substantial? I understand that you have not yet moved to penalties. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. But in the past, Superintendencia de Industria y Comercio, the competition authority, did some investigation and defined some penalties on some specific agents in the market in the past.
Uh-huh.
But from our work so far, we don't have penalties, but we are running some investigation right now, and at the end it could be the case.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you. And then another question is, are there any cross-sector energy application initiatives? I would guess that's between the gas and electricity markets.
But what do you mean with cross?
I'm not sure, but I guess, are you looking at how market concentrations in one market would affect the other? I guess in the gas market would affect the electricity market.
Yeah, we run some analysis on that. We have an interinstitutional committee to see how both markets each market can affect the other.
Yeah, I guess your example that you just gave is an example of that, right?
Yeah. That's example of that. That's why I decided to put this example, because it's an event on the natural gas transportation system that affects the behavior of the agents, or that has an impact on the behavior of the agents on the electricity market. But it could be something like that. Mm-hmm. But we are running more analysis on this relation between both markets.
Okay, terrific. One more last question, which is, given that generation is so, and this goes back to the beginning, but you were on another topic by the time I got this question, so I didn't want to interrupt the flow. Given that generation is so heavily run-of-river, which has, of course, near zero marginal cost, who participates in the spot markets?
No, but that affirmation is not right. Most of the hydro power plants are not run of the river.
Yeah.
They have dams.
Yeah.
So the run of the river power plants are a minority.
Yeah.
But they have to participate. So no, most of the power plants are have dams.
Yeah.
So they have not zero marginal cost.
Yeah.
They have a cost of an opportunity cost for water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why they have this behavior. These are the bids, the price bids on orange, the price bid for these power plants, and see this range from, I didn't put the numbers, they are private so far, but this change could be between, could be 10 times.
Wow. Okay.
In some specific points. This is not the case, but this could be that we could have that range. Okay. And they could change. It depends on the character, on the features of the power plant and the dam and all that stuff. But they could have, for example, these changes between days.
Yeah. Who participates mainly in the spot market? Everybody?
Everybody participates. But the main, so there are some specific agents that fix the price on that market mainly. For example, in these days, there were 2 agents with several power plants, because they have portfolio, with several power plants fixing the price. Okay. Not just one power plant, but several from the same agent. Okay. At this in this day, the 24 hours of this day, the price were fixed by 2 agents, mainly with 2 power plants, but could be with several. And that's a high concentrated market on the fixation of the price, on the pricing of that spot market. So that could happen in several hours. In other hours, we can have like 10 agents fixing the price. But this is an extreme situation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Camilo.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you all for the participation and for hearing me.
Thank you. If you could stop your screen sharing and Jose could put his up. Thank you so much, Camilo. This is great.
Okay. No, my pleasure.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the invitation. And I'm Jose Sanhueza. I'm an economist of the market of the National Coordinator of Chile. And my presentation is going to be divided in 3 main topics. First of all, I'm gonna give you a general description of the electricity market framework. Then I'm gonna talk about the structure of the National Electric Coordinator, and I'm gonna end explaining you the functions of the Market Competition Monitoring Unit. So the general framework in the general framework, we have different institutions. We have the BRG, which is a regulatory body, and they can create laws and non-technical norms and decrees. And we have the National Energy Commission, which is a technical regulatory body. They also can create norms and decrees, but they are mainly focused on technical issues. So the Ministry of Energy can create a general law, then the National Energy Commission will then norm the technical side of those norms. And the National Energy Commission also established the prices, fixed the prices for regulated services. So in this case, we have distribution that is regulated. The capacity market is also regulated, as well as the transmission. And on the other hand, we have the Fuels and Electricity Superintendency, which is related with the compliance of the legal, administrative, and regulatory framework. So if someone found that an agent of the market, including the coordinator, for example, is not abiding by the law, they could send that case to the superintendency, and then they could find the private agent, or they could ask the coordinator to change some policies, for example. And in particular, with the related with the National Electric Coordinator, we have direct relationship with generation companies, transmission companies, distribution companies, and large customers. So with regard to the generators in particular, even the small means of distributed generation are subject to the coordination of the coordinator. But they are not dispatched directly, but they can be given some orders, for example, not to start or to turn off, stop injecting energy because of reliability issues, for example. And within this general framework, we also have other institutions, such as a panel of experts, and it's kind of, if there is a kind of an arbitrage, for example, then they between what is being done by the coordinator and the position of a private agent, then they could decide between two decisions. They cannot take intermediate decisions. They only have to decide between the two positions that are in question there. And in the side of the competition, we have the National Economic Prosecution Office, which is the competition agency. We have a competition tribunal. So it has the same framework actually that the judicial system, but specialized on competition. And we also have a transparency council if we are subject to the transparency law. So if someone wanted to ask for public information, we have to meet a particular time in order to give that information to the public. Now, particularly with regard to the market, how it works, we have we have an energy market, capacity market, and ancillary services market. And the coordinator defines the day ahead generation schedule based on economic dispatch. We don't have a day ahead market. It is only used for the unit to solve the unit commitment problem and determining which generators are on and off, but we don't have a day ahead market. So the locational marginal pricing is based on declared costs and real-time operation. And the data for those marginal costs are determined 2 days after the operation, so we don't have online information about that. Actually, we have online information, but it is preliminary. But the one that is used to pay the generators, for example, is the one determined 2 days after the operation. And then we have competitive long-term energy bids for regulated customers. So in this scheme here, we can see that we have a generator that can inject energy, but they are not obliged to have a contract with a customer. And we have another generator that to the system as well, and is but also has a withdrawal of energy in order to satisfy the demand of its customer. So not every generator has to have a contract with a customer, but every single customer has to have a contract with a generator. And these bilateral contracts could be short-term or long-term. You can find them lasting from 2 years up to 15, 20 years even. And the long-term contracts that are used to satisfy the demand of the regulated customers are based on a bidding process, in which it's an international bidding process and everyone can participate. And with regard to the transmission, it's, even though it's regulated, and there is competition in the tendering process. We have an expansion plan, and if some infrastructure is required, then a bidding process is gonna be made in order to satisfy that requirement. And then what they offer is the value of the investment of that infrastructure, and then that is gonna be used in order to determine the regulated price, which now is gonna be paid wholly by the customers. We also have capacity payments based on plants availability during peak demand. That is also a regulated price determined by the National Energy Commission. And every single generator is subject to that capacity payment, even renewable energy. And we have now, from the start of this year, an ancillary services market, which is auction-based, but there is a condition. If there is potential competition in the market, then it has to be based on a bidding process. Otherwise, if we estimate that there shouldn't be competition, the allocation of resources should be based on costs and through a direct instruction. So here we have some statistics, general statistics of the system. I've divided our system in north, center, and south. And we can see here that there isn't a huge gap between, in the second semester, there isn't a huge gap. In contrast with what happened in the first semester, in particular in the south. But the most common gap was between the north and the center, and it was because most of the renewable energy is located in the northern regions, and we had limitations in the transmission lines. But from July onward, a new line of 500 kV started its operation. So we don't have as many problems of congestion as we had in the past. And in the south, we are seeing now problems with congestion, and that has caused diesel generators to be dispatched. So we've reached a peak of $150 per megawatt hour. And unfortunately, that problem won't be solved in the midterm. And there is a line that is part of the expansion plan, but it's gonna be finished in like 7 years or so.
I have a quick question from somebody. They want to know how, since it's a regulated market, how the prices for electric power are established, and which agency is in charge of that.
Is determined by a merit list. Is based so it is based on audited cost, and they are ordered by variable cost, the plants, and then when they satisfy the demand, the last one, the marginal generator, is the one who sets the price. It's free market, but with audited costs.
Thank you.
And with regard to the installed capacity and generation, we have a similar scenario here than we saw in the previous presentation, in which we have most capacity is hydro, followed by thermal, particularly by coal, natural gas, diesel, solar, wind, and others, as cogeneration. But in the generation side, we can see that the coal is the fuel that is most used, and followed by hydro, which is half reservoirs in run of the river, natural gas then, and then solar, wind, and others. Diesel is used only in particular situations like the one I mentioned before we had in the south, and that is responsible for those spikes on the marginal cost. So our total capacity is 25.2 gigawatts, and with a peak demand of 10.8 gigawatts. So we can see that the capacity more than double the peak demand. However, our system spans through 3,100 kilometers, and our system is not very redundant. So, and it is radial. So we have a lot of problems with congestion. So we don't have to take a face value that relationship between peak demand and installed capacity. And now, particularly with
I have, sorry, before you go on, Jose,
Mhm.
before you go on, I have a couple of questions again. One is going back to ancillary services. How are those charges? I guess the customer in the end, of course, pays for the ancillary services, or is that a charge that has to be covered by the system operator?
No, the customers are the ones who pay the charges, and we have the secondary and tertiary frequency control are based on a bidding process, whereas the rest is based on costs, audited costs.
Okay.
And opportunity cost as well.
And then one more question. Is spot trading, the spot market, is there a spot market in Chile, and how does, is it nationwide or?
Yeah, the spot market is nationwide, and it is the main market actually. So the ones who have the ones who are the cheapest in terms of variable cost are obliged to inject because it's a pool and they are ordered by cost, and that's the spot market. And they inject and and then they get the marginal cost. And the ones who have contracts, bilateral contracts with customers, they are the ones who withdraw energy, and they have to pay that price. And everyone can participate if they are dispatched.
Okay, thank you.
And now, the main functions of the National Electric Coordinator are determining the general law of electric utilities, and they are classified in 3 categories. 1, preserve the security and reliability of the system. 2, guarantee the economic operation of the system. And 3, guarantee open access to transmission infrastructure. To achieve the 2 and 3, the regulator estimated that a competitive market was paramount. So in the Article 7210 of the same law, it was added a new function, which is the market competition monitoring. And the board of directors decided to create, in order to comply, to fulfill that new objective, created the market competition monitoring unit, which is highlighted in blue here. And we depend directly of the board of directors in a similar fashion than the audit and compliance unit. Why? Because we need independence from the core business of the coordinator, since we not only analyze what is happening with the private agents, but also we analyze the internal policies of the coordinator in order to promote competition or avoid some policies that could harm the competitive environment in the market. So we analyze as well, not only, as I say, the private sector, but also what the different units, operations, energy markets, transmission planning, technology innovation are doing. And actually, since we have a public funding, and our budget is determined by the Ministry of Energy, we even analyze the bidding processes, for example, that are done, that are carried out by human resources and administration. So specifically with regard to market competition monitoring unit, our functions are determined, as I mentioned before, in the Article 70-10 of the General Law of Electric Utilities. And that article says that in order to guarantee the principles of coordination of the power system established in the Article 72.1, the coordinator shall permanently monitor the competition conditions of the electricity market. So that's the key part, because we have to monitor the market permanently. So with free competition, goal, we generation for typical potential anti-competitive behaviors. In our case, we don't have an energy system based on auctions. So what are the most likely conduct could be related with altering the declaration of fuels, for example, or the non-fuel variable cost, and or the cost of transportation of the fuel, or sudden failures related with that could be related with capacity withholding. We also look at transmission. Even though it's regulated, there is a bidding process for each project that is part of the expansion plan. So we not only look at the competition within the bidding, which is key in order to achieve the lowest investment value, and therefore the lowest price to be charged to the customers. But also we analyze we support the work of the coordinator in order to design the bidding rules. And actually we've been working actively on that, and we had a problem at the beginning with a lot of void tendering processes, and we've improved that by recommending things in order to lower the barriers of entry, the transaction cost, and stuff like that. And there's also an open access system, which is contained in the main objectives detailed in the law of the coordinator. So we have different levels of transmission. We have national transmission, zonal transmission, which are considered as public, and we have a third category, which is named dedicated transmission. And those lines are private. But even though they are private, they are obliged to give access to anyone who wants to connect, conditional to the existence of a capacity. So if there is capacity available in a private line, they have to give access. So this is a typical framework of vertical integration in which the owner of the line could have the incentive to deter the entrance to foreclose that local market in order to avoid a future lowering of the marginal cost. So we also look at that with detail. Then we have distribution that, again, even though it is a regulated market, there is the possibility, they play the role of a commercialization company. We don't have that role established explicitly in the law. So generators and distribution companies are the ones that play the role of commercialization companies. And so they can sell their services to small means of generation that connect to distribution lines. And also here, you have the classical framework of vertical integration. So they could use their information and the fact that they are the owners of the distribution infrastructure to gain market power in the side of the commercialization. And then we have ancillary services that, as I mentioned before as well, we have the secondary and tertiary frequency control determined by a bidding process. We have the challenge of determining without any information during 2019, and determining the competition conditions, potential competition conditions, but now we have the data, so we are analyzing the performance of the market in order to give recommendations as well. And we also look at other related markets like the fuel LNG, for example, or coal. And not only that, but also we look at other markets that are related with the activities of the coordinator, even though they aren't part of the core of the business. As I said before as well, as I said earlier, if the coordinator wanted to hire, for example, an insurance company to give insurance to their employees, we also are going to look at the design of the bidding process. We are going to analyze the bidding rules. So generally speaking, we look at the structure, conduct, and performance. I'm not talking about the old framework of structure, conduct, and performance of industry organization, but those are the main variables that we look at to monitor the market. So to summarize, we take coordinated companies, information within the coordinator, not only related with companies that are coordinated, but also because we look at the activities of the coordinator, so they don't harm competition and competition could be promoted. And we look at the real-time operation, agents interactions, tendering process, information of tendering processes, market structure, field information, technical information, and the company's economic performance. That's key because in order to have use of market power, their market power, companies have to have the ability in order to alter the competitive equilibrium and have in a profitable way in the long term. So the part of the analyzing the company's economic performance is key here. So here we have the interaction that there is between the coordinator, particularly with the market monitoring unit and the institutions of competition law. So the coordinator is an autonomous, technical, independent institution. And by law, we have to monitor and detect indications of anti-competitive behavior. We don't investigate that, and that's a key point. We don't investigate cases. We monitor with information we have. And if we detected some indications of anti-competitive behavior, then we could send that to the National Economic Prosecution Office in order for them to investigate. And then if they found that it is worth investigating further, and they could send the case to the competition tribunal so they can take a decision. And if someone disagreed with the decision of the competition agency, with a competition tribunal, then they could go to the Supreme Court and they could override the decision of the competition tribunal. Obviously, they can take a completely independent decision. It is the highest court in the land. And if we detected as well that some norms or laws could harm competition, or that a new law could be passed in order to enhance competition, then we could also propose a regulatory change. But then we don't have to go to the competition tribunal. We could go directly to the Ministry of Energy or the National Energy Commission in order for them to make that regulatory change. And we have direct channels of communication with them. So I'm not going to talk about the details of the cases we've seen and we are analyzing now because it's confidential, everything. But some topics that we've analyzed are related with fuel, which has a direct impact on the variable cost of generators. And actually, a case that was public and it was influenced by the work we were doing was sent to the panel of experts, and the panel found that the position of the coordinator was correct, and it had an impact of around $2 to $3 US dollars per megawatt hour, and that at the end of the day could amount to millions of dollars per year. And we've seen cases related with sudden failures as well that could be related with capacity withholding. So we've analyzed that as well. And the most challenging process has been the ancillary services one, because I mentioned that before as well, but in 2019, we had to determine the potential competition conditions in the market without having any data available to do that, that analysis. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the only market that has a similar framework than ours is the Peruvian one, in which they have audited costs in energy and auction-based market in ancillary services. So we had to simulate and estimate pivotal rents in order to see what would be the worst case scenario in which we could be, and then open the market to competition or determine that it had to be based in costs. And now that we have data, we are going to repeat the same analysis, but we are also going to analyze the performance and the potential interactions between the different agents, and if it is worth we keep going with the same structure or making a modification and a recommendation to the regulatory bodies. So that would be the presentation.
Thank you. I'm not, your voice broke up at the very end when you started to say thank you. So I hope you can still hear me, and I hope that you're, okay, good. We have a bunch of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I held most of them. There's a general, the Chilean market is very different from markets I think that most people are used to. This is more typical for Latin American markets. This whole concept of audited costs. So we have a question that how are the prices for the electricity market established? So you audit the companies and you tell them what their price, what their.
So the variable cost of the generators is divided between fuel cost and non-fuel cost.
Mm-hmm.
So the non-fuel cost has to be audited directly, and it has different variables, if even personnel involved, the cost involved there. And whereas the fuel cost, they just buy into market the fuel that they need, and they declare the prices, and they show the invoice, for example, and the contracts if it is a long-term contract. For in the case of LNG, for example, and then with those prices, we use that information and transform it with the heat rate in the variable cost, in the fuel variable cost. So we add the fuel variable cost plus the non-fuel variable cost, and we have the variable cost of each generator.
And
in the case of the reservoirs, the opportunity cost, and then they are ordered according to the cost in order to satisfy the demand. And as a result of the real-time operation, the marginal generator is determined, and then the variable cost of that marginal generator is the one who sets the marginal cost of that particular node, a particular node.
Okay, thank you. Shoot, I had a question about that. Oh yeah, If the generator comes in with a cost that's higher than their audited costs, do you automatically bring that price down to the audited cost level?
We have, yeah, we've had cases like that. Actually, the case and that was sent to the panel of experts was similar, in which they were declaring a particular cost of unloading of the in the port tariff of the cost of unloading coal.
Mm-hmm.
And they were declaring around $7 per ton.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coordinator determined that it wasn't the competitive price. So the correct price should be around $2 per ton. So the coordinator changed that. And the coordinator ordered to the generator to change the declaration. And then if there is a dispute, they go to the panel of experts, and the panel is the one which decides which position is the correct one.
Okay, so you can adjust bid prices before they are applied so that the market doesn't pay that unfair difference. And then the generator, if they win their case, then they recover that amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, now it is being reviewed by the superintendency case related as well with integration of the cost of the same service, and because there was no actually the fuel of the price of the fuel, and there was a mistake by the companies, quote unquote mistake, and they are going to have to pay back to the system what they had to pay in addition because of that mistake.
Okay, so it could be either ex ante or ex post.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And if, for example, if that is related with an anti-competitive behavior because they had the incentives to do that, then that case not only could go to the superintendency, but also could go to the competition agency.
Okay. And then I have some questions about the structure of your organization. One, who pays your salaries? Is there a special assessment from electricity regulator, or is it just part of the national government budget?
It's not part of the national government budget, and there is an extra charge in the bills that everyone pays for electricity, and so our budget is based on that. And then they get that money. I mean, and the Ministry of Energy is the one which centralizes that, and they approve our budget. So the charge is fixed. But what we can use as a budget is determined by the Ministry of Energy, and the remainder goes to the general budget, public budget.
Okay. And how are the I have a question here. How are the directors selected? I think that means the directors of your agency.
The board of directors. There is a public, if I'm not mistaken, the competition tribunal selects a couple of those, but there are the central bank actually it is involved as well, and it is a public
Appointment.
Appointment. Yeah.
Okay.
So several people has to apply, and then they are selected by different authorities.
Okay, thank you. I think that covers all of our questions. I apologize to everybody for going so far over time. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you so much, Jose. This is a very interesting and quite different structure from what we've been seeing in our previous presentations. So that was really interesting. As I said in the chat, there were some questions for Camilo that were not answered before he had to leave. So I will be forwarding him those questions. And I think the easiest thing is I will probably send all the participants in this, all the people who signed up, I will send them the answers to those questions as soon as I have those. Thank you again for joining us here today. Thank you for our speakers who made an extra effort to speak in English. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day or evening, depending on what time zone they are in. Thank you so much and good night. And we will be letting you know about upcoming webinars on this topic. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye.